Hello, Commanders, and welcome back to Elite Dangerous Return from Beagle Point. In the last episode, we were approaching this 7 biology planet, and I decided to go ahead and close it off so we had something to look forward to when we came back to this episode. So let's go ahead, get the scan done, then we'll get into today's topic, which is keeping it fresh. I have a few things to say on that particular subject. I do try to have something to talk about as we're doing all of this stuff, because the scanning and jumping and all of that kind of stuff can get pretty boring if you don't try to find something else to do while you're doing it. So rather than, trying to find something to watch, I might as well talk about things. So for this one, we have Alioida, Bacterium, Concha, Fungoida, Osseous, Stratum, Tussock. I think we might focus on the Alioida, because everything else that is easy to get to is pretty much all over the place. And Alioida is kind of in the middle of the road of rarity. So I think we'll focus on Alioida, and then hopefully we find something that's really close by that's going to be able to do that. For those of you who are just joining this series, we are returning from our very long trip out to Beagle Point, which is way out in this sector over here. In a couple episodes ago, we made our way back through Sagittarius A-star, saw the black hole over there, sold off our data. This is where we're currently located, and we're heading back over here to the bubble. Our latest waypoint right here is 277 jumps away, as you can see. And so that's the overall thing of what we've been doing. We're trying to increase our exobiology rank up to the elite status, as well as hopefully... oops, wrong button. Hopefully make enough money to purchase a fleet carrier by the time we get back. I mean, we already have enough money, but I want to have enough extra money to be able to do be comfortable and safe with all of that. So that's kind of what the goal of this entire trip has been thus far. So let's get into our glide onto the planet. I kind of need to focus for a second just to make sure that I don't do something stupid like approach too fast, and then we end up having to slow fly down crazy distances. Excuse me. So let's try to find a place to
orbital flight engaged.
Not really sure. Doesn't look all that flat anywhere, but that's all right. I guess we'll hop down into here and hope for the best. I don't know. Everything looks pretty rocky from up high. It's only until you get down to closer to the surface that you start to find out what it actually looks like. Even after all these episodes, I have a hard time reading these heat maps and knowing what the surface is actually going to look like. All right, so here we are in the glide, and we're just going to try to find as many species as we can, and then we'll move on. I don't know that I'm going to spend too much time here on this planet, just because we have places to be. And, I don't really foresee there being any I don't foresee the stratum on this planet being Tectonicus, which is like the really expensive one. So anyways, like I said, our topic for today is keeping it fresh. I think one of the things that we struggle with in life in general is getting bored with things. We have these routines that we get into, and for a while they're fine, especially if it's a new routine that you're building for yourself. But after a certain number of repetitions of those things, no matter how good that routine might be for you, you start getting into a place where you just don't want to deal with it anymore. It's like that the knowledge that we have. Oh, my camera's not much I can do about it. Sorry. My system isn't capable of doing too many things at one time, and one of the things it's going to struggle with is keeping my background here working properly while it's trying to draw all this stuff on the screen. So apologies if my camera is not keeping up with what I'm saying, or the other way around. However it ends up working, it is what it is. Hopefully it'll get better. What was I saying? I lost track of what I was saying. Like, we understand the idea that you can't, no matter how delicious a food might be, you'll never be okay with just eating that same thing for every meal all the time, every day. Even if it's ice cream or something like that, you're eventually going to get tired of it. We have the saying of everything has to be taken in balance. No, not too much or too little of anything. You want to have just enough. And that's kind of the way that that's kind of the way that life just is. And it's inevitable that you're going to get bored with pretty much everything in your life at some point. And that's the reason why we always seek out change. I think especially for me, one of the reasons why work really sucks is that for the most part, if you're doing a real job, a regular job, that's something that doesn't have a lot of variation in it, you're going to be doing a lot of the same thing over and over and over again. If you work in a factory, you're going to be putting the same things together over and over and over again. If you work in an office, you're going to be doing the same kinds of paperwork over and over and over again. And you get to a point where you're just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired of doing the same thing. What am I doing with my life? There's no variety. There's no adventure. There's no anything in it. It's just grinding out this thing so that I can pay bills, so that I can live in this house that I've been living in for however long, or in this apartment, or this tent, or whatever it is that I've been living in for however long. And what am I really getting out of this? And it's very easy to get yourself into a place where, you're so bored with whatever it is that you're doing that you become to resent it, because like, what is the meaning of my life if all I'm doing is this stupid thing that I've been doing for however long I've been doing it? And I think, a lot of that just has to do with the way that the world has changed over however many, like the last 100 years or so. And a lot of the jobs that we do now don't really have the kind of meaning that they wish that it used to. Like, it used to be you did a job and it had a specific purpose and you knew what that purpose was. And, that's just kind of the way it was. I saw a video recently in the last day or so that mentioned something to that effect. And I was like, man, that makes a lot of sense. And, the boredom that we get, I think a lot of it just has to do with the fact that a lot of work nowadays just doesn't have the same impact that it used to, because, it's not for us anymore. We're not doing the work. Don't hit that. We're not doing the work for other people. We're doing the work for a company. Like, even back in the day when you were putting a car together, at least you knew you were building a car for a customer who was going to buy something. But a lot of the jobs now, you're putting together, you're doing some kind of mindless job that doesn't really provide you with any sense of accomplishment, and you can't really put your finger on who this stuff is helping. And I think it makes a lot of sense that we get bored with that more quickly, because the reward centers in our brain aren't stimulated quite as often as if we were doing something that we felt mattered. So, we get into these routines, and it's easy to become extremely bored. And I stopped paying attention. Oops. Okay, hold on a second. I believe that was the Alioida that we were looking at. There's supposed to be like a bunch of tussock and stuff everywhere. So where is all of that? More of that. I'm gonna try turning my graphics down a little bit and see if that helps with the... Is that better? Yeah, that seems to be a little bit better. Okay, cool. The problem is that I have a system that's capable of... Oh, sorry, I'm looking at myself and not the flying. I have a system that's capable of playing all of my games at max settings and running it fairly smoothly. But then you add, taking out the background of what's behind me with the OBS recording, and then also trying to take the background out. It's one of the reasons I got rid of my camera back in the day, is because it just wasn't able to keep up. I'm at the adding the camera pushes me over the ragged edge, is basically what I'm saying. So I'm trying to do something different with my channel, which kind of is in keeping with the topic of what we're talking about right now. But at the same time, I don't have the hardware to necessarily do that the way I want to do it. So that's what it is. And I'm not showing you my background in my trailer. So. That's just the way that it is. That also takes up a lot of extra real estate on the screen, having a big square instead of just me in the foreground here. So I want you guys to be able to see more of the game. That's also part of it. All right, I really need to stop crashing. But the reason I bring that up is that it's been causing my game to feel ever so slightly laggy, which is contributing to me not flying very well. Anyways, we're talking about being bored, and my specific example right now is that I've been playing Call of the... All right, you know, I'm about ready to just leave because we're not finding anything new. It's all just this stuff. I haven't even seen any bacteria. There's supposed to be 7 species on this planet. We're not finding anything. And it's extremely frustrating. So, all right, you know, I'm sorry, I'm not going to hunt around for 45 minutes trying to find new species. Sometimes you get a planet like this where you get high concentrations of one thing and then nothing else is nearby, and it is what it is. So we're just going to move on. We're just going to move on because it's not going to be the high value stuff anyway. So anyways, and it'll allow me to focus on talking again. I've been playing Call of the Wild for about 7 months now, and if you've been following that particular series, you know that I recently finished the exploration phase of that game, at least what I call the exploration phase, where I go through all of the different maps and unlock all of their points of interest, and I've been doing that for 7 months, pretty religiously, pretty regularly, pretty whatever word you want to use. And after 7 months of doing the same thing over and over again, even though it was different maps and different locations and different animals and stuff like that, I'm kind of burnt out on it. I'm kind of at the point... Excuse me. I'm kind of at the point right now where playing that game is just making me unmotivated. And it's because I've been doing the same thing over and over and over, and I'm kind of tired of the game. Now, does that mean I'm done with it forever? No. I don't even know that I necessarily want to take too long of a break from it, because it is one of the series that has been providing me with consistent viewership. But, you know, you got to find ways to get around your boredom, and sometimes that means walking away from it, taking a break from it. Whatever it's like, sometimes you take a break from something and sometimes you never come back to it. That may be what happens with the hunting game. It's going to be kind of sad if that ends up being what happens, because I put a lot of time and resources into making that series. Not just from recording, but I also spent some money buying maps and gear and things like that, and I kind of invested in it, and it kind of feels bad just walking away from it, but it is, you know, sometimes you have to make decisions like that. The thing is that, especially for someone like me who grew up reading, you know, fantasy novels and going on, you know, adventures in my head and things like that, you know, having something new to focus on is a really great way of refreshing yourself. And I think that's one thing that pretty much anybody should really be adding into their life if you're not doing it already, is always be looking for something new to add to whatever your routines are. In my case, you know, I'm looking for different games to play because I want to find new things that keep me refreshed and invigorated and allow me to create more genuine content. It's really hard for me to get on and be energetic and fun and all of those things that you know, make watching videos worth your time if I'm not motivated to do it because I'm stuck in a grind, and that grind is wearing me down emotionally and energetically and all of those things. And so sometimes I get into a mindset where, even though I know it's going to lower my view count and there's going to be a tangible consequence to making certain decisions, you know, sometimes you have to make sacrifices to get back to being more real and more genuine and more all of those things that, you know, make you worth, or make what you're doing worth it. And in this case, you know, right now I'm sacrificing views, relatively consistent views from a series that I've been running for a long time, because I want to be genuine with my content. Once I finished the exploration phase of that series, I tried to make a couple more videos because I wanted to move into the trophy hunting phase, where I'm just trying to get the bigger and bigger animals. But I'm not motivated to sit down for, you know, the amount of time that it's going to take me to do that. the cool thing about, say, this series and the other videos that I'm doing is that they only really take me 30 minutes to get done because I just sit down and do a straight recording. The hunting stuff requires me to pretty much put cuts in because to get anything done in that game takes an hour plus, and I'm not going to make hour-long videos. I want to make, 20 to 30-minute videos, something like that. Excuse me. And most people aren't going to sit there and watch you while you're trudging through the forest. That's just not interesting content. So to get enough content in to make it worth watching and have a chance at actually finding animals, I got to put in a fair amount of time off camera to get to that. And that's one of those things that that kind of demotivates me from doing things. Is I feel like it's I know intuitively it's not a waste of time, but it feels like a waste. It feels like all this time I'm putting in outside of the stuff that actually makes it on camera. I know that's just part of content creation, but it just galls me to waste the time that way. So I become unmotivated to do it, and after 7 months, I'm kind of worn out of it, and it's just one of those things where I'm taking a break because I need to. And you never know when something that you've been doing for a while might end up becoming something that you did, and you move on to something new because something else works out better. So I'm kind of taking a break from the hunting thing to try out other games that I might not have tried out in the past, like I'm doing Honkai Star Rail and Wuthering Waves. Those aren't really games that I really would have paid much attention to back when I was before I started doing content creation. I probably wouldn't even have heard of them other than watching videos online and having come across them. So one of the things I love about video games is that you get to go on a new adventure every time you start up a new one. And I think that's one of the things that we as human beings really crave. We crave adventure, and we crave adventures because we are creatures of story. All throughout our history, we've been living in stories. Our life is a story. We hear about other people's things that happen to them in their stories, and we relate to that because our evolution has brought us into a place where we value experiences. We value things that happen. We value interacting with people in a way that makes us feel connected and more close and all of those things. And it's through those experiences that we feel like life has some kind of meaning to it. And so, like I said, I grew up reading adventure novels, reading fantasy novels, all of that kind of stuff. And I've spent my entire life trying to recapture that feeling. And unfortunately, we live in a world now where adventure just isn't as possible as it used to be, or at least it isn't as accessible, I guess, as it used to be. Most of the world has been explored. Most of the world is highly regulated, or pretty much all of the world is highly regulated now. And to get to a place where you have any chance of actually doing something that's truly new or truly adventurous requires a lot more creativity than it used to. Like for me, I want to go sail around the world. That's an adventure, but it's not exactly like going on a quest or something like that. You're just trying to get out into the world. But even that's enough, I think, for feeling like you're doing something different with your life. And I used to want to seek comfort and safety and all of those things, and I still do. I mean, we also have that part of us that primitive part of us that makes us avoid danger. It's really hard to get yourself out of that, but at the same time, there's also a part of us that seeks out adventure and something new and gets really sick of being bored with being bored. I guess is one way to put it. So, it's a big risk to go out and try to do something different, to place your life with your heart rather than your head. And as I said before, there's a lot of rewards that can be gleaned or can be obtained by doing something completely different, following your heart and going away from what you know and trying to do something different. It's a big risk. It's one of those things that you're really going to struggle with trying to figure out how to navigate that. But at the same time, I think the alternative is worse. And I've experienced the alternative for a lot of my life. It's that crushing sense of you're never going to have anything in your life that really means anything. You're not going to do anything with your life that actually matters to you. you're stuck in a situation and other people have more control over your life than you do. And that's kind of a horrible, terrible feeling to live under all the time. There's a reason why certain institutions in the world there's a reason why we look at certain institutions in the world. I won't say the word, but you know which one I'm talking about. And we think of it as this horrible, horrible crushing thing that needs to be eradicated from the world. You should be free to be who you want to be, do what you want to do, and no one else should ever have the power over you to force you to do anything. And unfortunately, I think I think especially in this modern time, most of us have allowed ourselves to fall into that institution. It may not be overt. It may not be people standing over you with implements of pain and forcing you to do things, but they have power over you in a more insidious way. They threaten your perceived sense of security, trying to get you to do things that you might not otherwise do because you need money. Money can be just as much of a horrible master as anything else, and too many of us have allowed ourselves to become, I don't want to say the word because I don't want the algorithm or anything or any kind of checks to really get me, but you know what I mean. That too many of us have allowed money to become our master rather than, doing what we want to do with our lives. And it's because, we feel like it's the only way of actually being able to survive in the world. Just kind of the way that it is. But at the same time, I think we all look at the world, or we all look at that. We all look at the real world version of that, or the more explicit version of that, and we think it's this horrible thing, and we don't really pay attention to the way it's done to us other than that. And it's just as bad. It's just as bad as the other way. I think it is anyway. I think it's just as bad. Yeah, it might not be as, it might not be as physically painful, but I think the emotional pain is pretty severe when you... It takes longer to hit you. Obviously, it's not as acute as being in that other situation. I'm not going to try to say that people who are in that situation... I know the way I'm saying this probably isn't coming across the right way, but you know what I mean. There's a long-term insidious effect of allowing yourself to be controlled in any kind of a way. And I think the modern way of doing things has placed a certain amount of control over us. And I think the worst part about it is that we've been convinced that it's okay. Like the other way, it's so blatantly in your face that it's not okay. There's an inherent disgust when you see it, for if you're not indoctrinated into that kind of behavior. And we all naturally shy away from that kind of thing if you're a decent kind of person. I think the problem with the modern way of doing it is that it's so cloaked and disguised in, we're doing something for you. We're having a transaction here. You're voluntarily doing this because we're doing something together, and we don't see the controls in the system that funnel us into those agreements because we have no other choice, because there isn't anybody out there who's actually trying to help you. They're just trying to get something out of you in exchange for as minimal of a thing as they can possibly get away with. And that's just the way the world works. So I know this conversation kind of turned into something different, keeping it fresh. But at the same time, there's an alternative that is kind of terrible to not seeking out the things in your life that's going to make you feel like you're actually doing something with it. I kind of didn't mean to go down that road, but it just kind of ended up happening that way. Let's see if we can find a planet to land on, because we are getting pretty long into the episode here. Let's see here. Are either of those landable planets? What the... Yes. Okay, cool. We get locked into this. We'll get on there. So... like I said, the topic of this is keeping it fresh, and that's really what I wanted to get to. But sometimes you kind of have to go down the dark topic to really emphasize why the main thing that you're talking about actually matters. I spent many years of my life stuck in situations that I didn't really want to be in because I felt like I had no other choice. And it took being forced out of those situations for me to realize that, you know, safety isn't really a thing. You know, things will come into your life and force you out of whatever position that you're in. And that could be something that you do. That could be something that other people do. I was laid off from a job. I had a medical problem that forced me out of a job. I had a job that ended and they didn't have any more work for me after that. And, you know, you keep moving from thing to thing and you start to realize that there is no security in life. The only secure thing that you have is you. So if you're going to spend your life having to rely on you and maybe a few close people that you keep in your life, maybe it makes sense to spend your time trying to find a way to maximize that rather than hoping that, you know, whatever this other thing that you're doing or this other job that you're doing is going to last, because they just don't anymore. They don't last anymore. And especially if that job wears on you emotionally and doesn't provide you with any kind of sense of fulfillment, maybe you should be trying to find something new, something that keeps it fresh for you. For me, you know, I'm doing this YouTube thing for now, and if it works out, great. But at the end of the day, I'm really at a point in my life where I'm trying to find something that isn't going to be the same kind of grind that I did for the first half of my life. I really want to find something different, and I encourage you to try to do the same thing. You know, even if you don't have the courage to go do something radically different, find something in your life that makes you feel like you're getting something out of it. Yeah, you may be stuck in whatever job you're doing, but that doesn't mean you can't try to do something on the side. Or maybe you want to help people or whatever. Just find something that you feel gives your life that sense of adventure, because I think that's where most people run into trouble. You don't feel like you're having the adventure that life is supposed to be. We have this idea in our heads, and it's an instinctive one, that life is supposed to be an adventure. And we've allowed ourselves to be regulated into not having that anymore. And it kind of sucks. So be sure to go find something that makes you feel like you're being adventurous, even if it's just a little bit. Something is better than nothing. So that's my message for today. I know it went a little bit dark, but sometimes you got to talk about the dark things so that you can truly understand the value of the light side of it. It's just kind of the way that it works. So let's go ahead, get down to the ground. I know we didn't really find anything. I know we started out on a 7 biology planet, but sometimes even the high diversity planets, they're going to take a lot more time to find whatever it is that you're looking for than it's worth to actually stay there and look for them. And, you know, unless it's going to be the 90 million credits or something close to that, and I don't really know which ones are outside of the stratum tectonicus. Unless it's going to be something like that, most of the time for me, it's not worth spending more than, you know, a few minutes scrounging around trying to find something. At some point, I'm just like, yeah, it's time to move on. I'm done. So let's get down on the ground. We'll call it a day, and really glad that you decided to join. Oh, because my my throttle was still down. Or my throttle was still at full. So anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode. Be sure to click the like button if you did, so that the YouTube algorithm will know, and send the video out to as many people as possible. If you're not a subscriber, please consider doing so now, so that when the next video comes out, it will show up in your feed and you will be able to watch it as soon as it becomes available. Channel members get early access to all of my content, so be sure to click the join button, check out the list of options available there, and decide if any of those are right for you. If you're not interested in a membership but would like to support the channel, you can always leave YouTube's version of a tip with that thanks button. Direct contributions are greatly appreciated and a critical component to helping to turn this channel into a full-time gig, which is the dream, and, you know, hopefully my adventure. So anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed the flight. Be sure to come back for the next one. It's sure to be as hopefully interesting as this one was, and I will see you then.